main strategy to achieve the Millennium Development Goal of reducing the under 5 years old mortality rates. The Red Cross Society intervenes as an auxiliary to government services through its network of volunteers, and it contributes to strengthening routine immunization in the various districts. Uganda Red Cross Society has also deployed its volunteers, and it contributes to strengthening the patients and also offer counseling services. Support temporary settlement of South Sudanese refugees and their integration in Adjumani district in Uganda and other areas. Following conflicts that broke out in December 2013 in South Sudan, there was displacement and fleeing of over 1.3 million people from South Sudan. Consequently, with funding from German Red Cross and Swiss Red Cross, the Uganda Red Cross Society rolled out WASH, food security, livelihood, and peace interventions to support resettlement of South Sudanese refugees in 3 settlements, including Mungula, Mungula 2, Maji 3, and host communications, including Aliwara and Ayiri. As a result of WASH interventions, the refugee population within the settlements and surrounding host communities have increased access to clean water. This was as a result of drilling of 4 new and rehabilitating 21 boreholes, all done by the Red Cross Society. This has reduced pressure on the few boreholes that had remained functioning in the Mungula 1 settlement and reduced the high rate of borehole breakdown due to overusage. There is also a reduction in the movement of beneficiaries for long distances in search of safe drinking water, especially for those in Nyabila, Olwi, and Kureko. There is a reduction in waterborne related disease outbreaks as a result of increased availability of safe water, cuts of the Red Cross Society. Support for the Democratic Republic of Congo refugees and other refugees and their integration in Changwali. As a result of response interventions, life-saving emergency services were provided to over 18,000 newly arrived Congolese refugees, about 3,000 families, including women and children, in the 3 zones in that area, that is Mombasa, Marata 2D, and Malembo C in Changwali refugee settlement. Through water hygiene and sanitation, that is WASH interventions, the water treatment unit has been running since February 2018, producing an average of 150 to 200 cubic meters of water per day and serving about 70% of the settlement with water. That unit has been especially crucial during dry spells where alternative sources of water dry up. 60 communal latrines and 100 bathing shelters were constructed in the refugee settlement during the emergency phase. These were later decommissioned once the interventions entered the development phase, during which household latrines were adopted. The society introduced cash transfer programs in disaster response, pilot launched in Imbale, Namasaba village. With the support from the German Red Cross, Uganda Red Cross Society in January 21st, 2020, gave out 88 million shillings, Madam Chair, in cash to over 245 families that were affected by floods in December 2019. The money was transferred to beneficiaries using MTN mobile and the Airtel money transfer services. The ministry is trying to replicate this with another agency called Give Directly, especially during the corona pandemic, to see whether direct cash transfers can help assist people in vulnerable conditions. In December 2019, areas around Mount Elgon suffered adverse flooding effects and landslides, which caused destruction of public infrastructure, human settlements, lives were lost, as well as farmlands, causing huge losses to farmers in terms of crop destruction and livestock deaths. Close to 1,218 households in the districts of Umbala and Vitaleja were left homeless. The majority were displaced. Food items such as potatoes, cassava, beans, rice, soya beans, bananas, yams, and maize were destroyed, hence exposing families to hunger. In response, the Red Cross Society provided relief, non-food and food items to the affected families and other lifeline services. The cash program has been introduced as a complement to the already existing response mechanisms. The Keep a Girl Stay in School campaign. To help the girl child stay in school, Uganda Red Cross Society, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, together with the local authorities, launched a Keep the Girls in School campaign in March 2019. The campaign targets over 7.7 billion shillings for years worth of sanitary pads for 9,336 girls in Uganda by 2021. On Friday 27th September 2019, the Red Cross Society and its team distributed sanitary pads to 1,336 girls from 5 schools in Mayuge district. The Minister of Education and Sports selected the most vulnerable schools for this distribution, and these included the Furubi Secondary School in Imanyiro Sub-County, Kaboli Seed Secondary School in Kaboli Sub-County, Bunya Secondary School in Mayuge Town Council, St. John Secondary School in Buaya Sub-County, Wante Muslim in Buita Mbogwe Sub-County. In attendance were local district leaders, local government NGOs, journalists and representatives from Parliament and the Ministry of Education and Sports. The heart of this campaign is to ensure that girls in rural districts get proper menstrual management health systems. This will help to reduce the dropout rates for girls in schools in rural areas. The Red Cross Society and UNICEF continue to collaborate on sensitizing the communities on Ebola. The Ebola viral disease continues to remain a threat to Uganda due to increasing number of cases and deaths in the neighboring DRC, with about 2,837 cases and over 1,819 deaths reported by 30th August 2019 in the neighborhood. The epidemic has become one of the highest burdens within the neighboring country. Due to these cases, the society, with funding from UNICEF, prioritized risk communication and social mobilization activities within the districts of Kasese, Mundibujo, Kabarole, Rukunjiri, Ntoroko, Bunyangabo, Kisoro, and Kanungu to improve the district competencies to respond when an outbreak of Ebola occurs. The society continues to do the point of entry screening as a means to limit suspected cases from entering the country unnoticed. Health promotion campaigns are also being done at the household level, promoting the awareness of the Ebola virus and symptoms of the disease. Personal hygiene is being emphasized with the high-risk districts to galvanize efforts to increase awareness. Let me turn to the final point, that is monitoring, our approach towards monitoring these agreed activities which have been mentioned. One is headquarter level monitoring at the ministry. There will be direct planning, monitoring and evaluation agenda agreed between the Red Cross Society senior management team and the ministry senior leadership team. The agenda will be adapted and cascaded to the local government structures and the Red Cross Society branches to harmonize the agenda. There will be a technical monitoring and evaluation team established by the Red Cross Society and the ministry to track the day-to-day progress of the implementation framework once the bill is approved. The arising needs from the districts, so at the district level, the arising needs from the districts' health and disease outbreaks shall be brought to the attention of the respective district local governments, Minister of Local Government, Office of the Prime Minister, Minister of Health, in collaboration with the Red Cross Society. That is the interministerial, interagency approach. An MOU between the local governments of Uganda and the Red Cross Society shall also be framed, specifically specifying the values, mandates, and responsibilities of each agency. Remember, Madam Chair had pointed out, in most of the districts we now have a Red Cross Society representation with an office there. So we shall encourage memorandum of understanding between our local governments and the Red Cross Society in implementation of the activities. In conclusion, Madam Chair and honorable colleagues, I once again, based on the above background and the scope of activities undertaken by the Red Cross Society, wish to register my ministry's support to this bill, because we think this will strengthen the capacity of the Red Cross to continue to offer voluntary services while mobilizing resources for vulnerable communities in support of the government programs. I wish to thank you so much, and I beg to submit.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister.
Madam Chair, I had just a few small points to point out on the bill itself.
Thank you.
If we go to, so we support the bill, we fully agree with the bill. On page 4 of the bill, on the interpretations, we beg that we add an interpretation for public authority, because that is used several places in the bill without defining who this public authority is. And our hope is that it will include central government, the local governments, ministries, departments, and agencies of government, specifically pointing out that the local governments are part of the public authority. Then under clause 3, recognition of the Uganda Red Cross Society. It reads, the Uganda Red Cross Society established under Section 1 of the Red Cross Act, herein after referred called the Society, is hereby recognized and shall continue in existence as the National Red Cross or Red Cross Society for the Republic of Uganda. We think that the word National Red Cross is okay, but maybe the word national should continue to be replaced by Uganda to be consistent with the naming of the organization. On page 5, the society shall carry out its activities anywhere in Uganda and may open and maintain offices in the various districts. That is clause 3, subclause 3. The society shall carry out its activities anywhere in Uganda and may open and maintain offices in the various districts.
Can you come again? Clause 3.
It reads, the society shall carry out its activities anywhere in Uganda. We beg to add, and may open and maintain offices in the various districts. Then on page 6, under the objects of the society, we fully agree with the objects as given there. We beg to add one object so as to strengthen our collaboration with the Red Cross Society. And it reads as follows. So it comes after K, or before K actually. J, cooperate with other Red Cross societies. So anywhere between I and J, kindly add, let me read it as it is. Cooperate with local governments in areas of common interest, in particular capacity building, disaster preparedness and management, and advancing humanitarian assistance to the communities. Let me read it again. Cooperate with local governments in areas of common interest. Cooperate with local governments in areas of common interest, in particular capacity building, disaster preparedness and management, and advancing humanitarian assistance to the communities. Advancing humanitarian assistance to the communities. Finally, Madam Chair, on page 10, under clause 11, tax exemption. It reads as follows. The assets of the society, including its financial resources and real estate, as well as the revenue from its income-generating activities, shall be exempted from taxes and duties in accordance with the applicable laws. We beg that the committee reviews this because it tends to give too big laxity in terms of revenue from income-generating activities. These should be tax exempt if they are specifically for the activities of the Red Cross. But if the Red Cross Society runs a business, that business should pay tax. Yeah, so we think this is too much open-ended and it could be misused. We think the legal team should find a way of making it a little more specific, which revenues are tax exempt. Madam Chair and honorable colleagues, I beg to submit. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Minister. We are so grateful for the submissions. However, before we proceed, there were members who joined us. I request that they introduce themselves. Thank you. Yes. You did introduce yourself.
You did.
Honourable Minister and the team, we are grateful for the submission. However, in the area of the last submission, we request that it is written so that it is well captured and shared to be internalized in the course of making the final copy of our report. Honourable members, we are going to give everybody a chance, but I need to say this at the beginning so that we shall be guided very well in our discussions. Honourable Minister and my colleagues, in the course of interacting with the Uganda Red Cross Society, they opened to us openly that they came with this bill with a strong belief that we shall be able to remove away one of the mandates of Office of the Prime Minister, that is the implementation. OPM has got 3 major mandates, that is coordination, implementation, and monitoring. So as we discuss this, what actually indirectly they are asking is, they want us to remove that implementation role of OPM in relation to disaster-related issues, other emergencies, so that they perform those functions, and Office of the Prime Minister remains to coordinate and monitor all these activities. But however, we have also realized that Uganda Red Cross Society deals with various agencies in the course of implementing its humanitarian activities. So the question is, where can we house? They want to be a direct agent or agency of government, like you, local government. That's what they're asking. Where are we going to house them? Will this favor them? We also want to protect them. We have been enjoying their services because of the nature of their responses. And Honourable Minister, you are a senior citizen. We know when we put Uganda Red Cross Society to be operating like you as one of the agency of government, there are procedural matters that Uganda Red Cross Society has to follow. So our question is, will it leave them to operate the way they are doing with minimum bureaucracies, where there are emergencies, they swiftly move to these areas? So at the back of our minds, let's have that so that we get a better point of harmonization. Thank you so much. Now it's open. Let me begin from Honorable Stephen. Remove that slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honourable Minister, I want to thank you for your elaborate report. I have only a few comments. On page 2, Honourable Minister, you said that the Red Cross Society has over 350,000 regional members. I wanted to know from you, sir, whether these are employees or they are members just of the Red Cross Society. Secondly, Madam Chair, On page 3, Red Cross Society managed to mobilize and advance 40 million shillings for the displaced persons in Kasese. I wanted to know, where does this money come from? Where do they get this money? What are the sources? And whom do they account? Because we have been seeing Red Cross doing a lot of things. They have managed to help people, but we don't know where do they get their funds from. Lastly, Madam Chair, allow me to commend the work being done by the Red Cross Society. Of recent, we managed to register a COVID-19 suspect in Isinjiro, and this fellow was tested at the border of Uganda and Rwanda through Maraba. They allowed him to drive. He was a truck driver. When he reached in Isinjiro like this, of course, the other side, they rang that the person who is the truck driver, has tested COVID-19 positive. So you must take that person to Ibarara Referral Hospital. But Madam Chair, what happened? All the health workers around Isinjiro, together with even the security officers, they all ran away from the person. They ran away. It was on and only the members of Red Cross who came from Barara. They came and at least got this person, put him in their car, in the ambulances, with each and everything. So had it not been the Red Cross, I think the community was going to be infected. So I really want to thank them. They are doing a lot of work. Remember the other time when we went to Kasese, you saw what Red Cross was doing. I think there is a need, if there is any help for us to give, Red Cross must be totally helped in any way, because they are doing a great work to our communities. I thank you.
Yeah, but as we contribute, let's keep answering the question. Are we going to remove the implementation role of OPM? That was one of their requests, so that the Secretariat can take the minutes accordingly. That is one of their areas of request. They told us when we met them, they want us to give that role to them. So, for consistency, I encourage that let us also discuss that.
Madam Chair, I thought we would collect views from our clients first. That would be a in-house discussion. Because now if we discuss it out right now, Madam Chair, we shall not give opportunity to our visitors to give in their views. I thought our role now is to collect views from them, then we shall have the in-house meeting to analyze. Oh, yes. For example, now we want to know their view on this issue.
It has been raised by members.
Yeah.
We have opened for the agencies to talk about it, so we cannot also keep quiet about it. Let's all discuss it. It is a matter on the table since we began the interaction with the agencies, because this is what they are going to also respond to. And at this point, I want to appreciate the minister and the team. When he hinted at the closer, fairly about it, it's talking about the public authorities. Yes, it's part of it. So members, let's debate so that there is consistency. Yes.
Chair, I think these are very important points. As your stakeholders, as your witnesses, you've raised the point. I think we should give our views. Then you can also cross-examine us on this. Or,
yes.
Madam Chair, I think this is going a bit far. It is true that OPM and government has the role for coordination, implementation, monitoring of the disaster-related issues. Now, if Red Cross Society wants to take up implementation as an agency of government, then there are 2-3 things to consider. Number one, would they be happy to relinquish their independence and autonomy? That's a key question. And for me, I think they shouldn't. I think they should remain an independent organization that is not bureaucratic, that is not stuck into government procedures, just as you've heard the Honorable Kangwaje saying, in a situation where government was stuck, Red Cross was swift. And I think they should be careful about losing that. The second question would be, would Red Cross be happy, be glad to be subjected to the scrutiny and accountability of all its resources in a public way?
Exactly.
The question has already come. Where is the 40 million coming from? We know Red Cross gets money from Germany, from Switzerland, from wherever, from their own. The minute they say we are an implementing agents of government, they have to be audited by the Auditor General.
Yes.
They have to be accountable to Parliament.
Yes.
They have to open up as any public agency. What would be my recommendation? My recommendation would be, in order to strengthen implementation, especially in terms of disaster management, there's something we need to do as government, and I wish it comes out in your report. Looking at the various disasters, for example, we've had locusts, all of a sudden floods, all of a sudden COVID. I've seen OPM, the minister in charge of disaster, virtually stressed and overstretched. You are responding to a flood on the River Nile, then there is another one in Kasese, then there was one in Itoroko, then Lake Albert. All of a sudden the locusts come back and
mudslides.
The mudslides, then the food relief distribution in Kampala everywhere.
Fire scattered.
The best solution to this is to decentralize the disaster budget. It is to decentralize the monitoring, the coordination, the implementation of disaster preparedness and management to the districts. Because at the moment, the districts are handicapped. Even a small disaster, thunderstorm strikes, they have to rush to the center for some food relief. A small thing happens, they cannot do anything. Sometimes they even have the equipment, the graders and so on. But the fuel to do that, they are stuck. They have to wait for the minister in charge of disaster. So for me, we need to enhance our cooperation as government with Red Cross. Let them retain their independence, but let's strengthen their collaboration at the local level.
Yes.
By decentralizing this budget called disaster preparedness and management. And you can see at the moment we are only talking about response. There is a disaster, then we respond. Where is the budget for preparedness? We knew that the locusts were in Kenya, and we waited until they came here. Surely we knew that around this time the rains are heavy. The districts are able to move their communities away from the river banks. That can be done. The districts should be able to prepare their communities, to sensitize, to educate. But they can do that together with the Red Cross without the Red Cross becoming another agency of government. I would retain their independence, their autonomy, but enhance the implementation by decentralizing the budget.
Thank you so much. I think now, members, you have started to appreciate.
Yes.
This is the core principle of this bill, and we cannot move away from it. Let's discuss it.
Supplement, Madam
And it will now be able to help us on how to proceed on the other aspects of the bill, the other parts of the body.
Supplement, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I want to thank the Minister on the issue of preparedness. First and foremost, we have seen disasters in our areas, but he talked on the issue of food supplement, food relief. Should we again reintroduce the system of district farm institutes so that each and every district should have a land or gazette some land where a district can easily grow its own food? When there is a disaster, it should be that very district to feed its own people, other than those people now come to the center seeking food from Busoga to go and distribute it in Isinjiro as if in Sinjiro we don't have a plan for people in case a disaster comes. On the issue of food relief, why should we run to the center? And why should we give that ministry to go and buy when actually we can as well grow that food? Let us reintroduce the system of from
we shall discuss the nitty-gritties or the strategies on how to have a proper plan, both short and long term. Issues about disaster later. But let us now contribute specifically in relation to the bill. But however, the two issues raised by Honourable Minister are very key in disaster management, so the Secretariat has taken a note. Can we move to the next person? This side I don't see any other hand. Okay. Let's move this way. Honourable Smith.
Okay, thank you, Honourable Chair. Honourable Minister and your team, thanks a lot for the presentation. Let me start from where you have just talked, Honourable Minister. Generally, when you look at this bill, it puts Uganda Red Cross as an agency of government. If you look at the whole bill in totality. I just want to pick one example. When you look at section 10, for example, section 10 of the bill talks about the funds of the society shall consist of money appropriated to the society by the government. That one brings in another question where really you need to help us to get a clear picture. Before this bill came in, Uganda Red Cross has been getting money from the government. Is that money audited? Or has that money been audited? We need an answer to that. And if we put this bill becomes an act of parliament, as it is now in its present form, that means they will be getting funds from government. Are they ready to be subjected to the auditing principles and all that? That is one. Secondly, when you look at your presentation, Honourable Minister, on page 2, second paragraph, the last sentence, that the Uganda Red Cross was admitted as a member of International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent. By virtue that is a member, there are rules and regulations. If we pass this bill the way it is, and Red Cross becomes a government agency, as some members have already proposed, would it be, don't you think to be in contravention with the rules and regulations as far as International Red Cross is concerned? Another point, Honourable Minister, when you look at your presentation, the last paragraph, last paragraph in your concluding remarks, where you have stated that the Red Cross, while mobilizing resources for vulnerable communities in support of government programs. You are well aware that mobilization of resources is a mandate of Minister of Finance and Economic Development. If we pass this act the way it is, what will be the relationship between the Minister of Finance and Uganda Red Cross Society? Lastly, other ministries have already appeared they have already appeared before this committee, and as you are aware that the work of Red Cross cut across different government ministries and agencies. So in your view, assuming that it becomes a government agency, where do you think it should be housed? Will it be in Ministry of Local Government, for example, Ministry of LSA, OPM? Where can we put it? Lastly, Honourable Chair, the Minister talked about the issue of taxi immunity by Uganda Red Cross. Honourable Minister, I'm sure you are aware that about 2 years ago, there was a problem within Uganda Red Cross Society as far as tax immunity is concerned, where including the Secretary General was told to was removed from the office. So how are we going to address this issue? Because it has been abused before, that the goods which are coming in purposely for the activities of Uganda Red Cross Society, the officials within the society are benefited have turned it into their personal benefit. So what measures are we putting in place? What measures are we putting in place to ensure that such abuse is stopped? That's why thanks a lot for your presentation. And as a member of this committee, we appreciate the good work which the Uganda Red Cross Society is doing for this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and the Honourable Minister with your team. I also want to add my voice to really appreciate all that Red Cross is doing in our country. When it comes, when you have not experienced disasters, you'll never know what Red Cross does. But if you have had any form of a disaster case in your place, you really feel Red Cross in there. So we really have to appreciate their services. My concern, Honourable Minister, is your commitment to support the bill, which is very good, and also to pledge your commitment to working and monitoring and supervising Red Cross activities all through. But my concern is you are a Minister of Local Government. I happen to work at the district under production, and actually I was one time a disaster focal person for the district. It is just hanging like that. There is a disaster focal person that is supposed to link other departments of the district when a disaster happens. But this focal person or this function has nothing to do with the district budget, nothing, totally nothing. Like even recently, 2 weeks ago, we had a disaster. Even to move to where the disaster occurred to assess, it is me who had to fund the committee, that focal person and the committee to go there and assess the impact of the disaster. So I'm wondering if the Ministry of Local Government have been monitoring that. And actually even me, through this committee, I've just come to know that Red Cross actually has government funding, Government of Uganda funding. We entirely knew that this thing was donor funded and maybe donations from our wishers. And because of that, I'm wondering how the ministry does that when actually at the district level, where the real function of the local government is at the district level, if I am not mistaken, and then there is nothing to do with the supervision, the replicate of what the ministry does at the center should be done. I believe it should be done at the district as well, but there is totally nothing. Even Red Cross, when they are there, they just come independently just to offer that complementary support they do. So I'm really critically wondering if that be the case, then the ministry should also include that budgetary function in the local governments, so that really, and I'm sensitive about the way you brought it, that it should be a decentralized function to the district, so that really a small flood does not really require Ocheru to come to be to Kisoro. Last time when the president went to Kasesa, he was like, for us even in Kisoro we lost 4 people, but even in Kasesa they never lost any human being. It was only damage to properties and what, but in Kisoro we lost 4 people.
They lost
and
they lost,
yeah, we lost 4 people for sure.
Even in Kasesa they lost.
So some of the issues are sensitive. We shall handle them in-house because we are presidential affairs committee. Let's limit ourselves to the bill.
Yes.
By giving us a reminder, we are preparing to handle issues of disaster exhaustively with field trips. So reserve much of the issues for that, and let's concentrate on the provisions of the bill. We appreciate how the minister came with some of the strategies that we shall apply. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next person.
Yes. Thank you very much, Chair. Honorable Minister and dear colleagues, I'd like to draw our attention to page 2, paragraph 4 of the presentation by the Minister. Yes.
I request that Prince Media, the last remark by our colleague comparing Kasese and the Kisoro not be publicized. Please.
We are recording here.
You didn't understand me.
No, I know.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it.
Please help us.
We are going to delete it. Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Thank you. Minister and dear colleagues, as I said before, I would like to draw your attention to page 2, paragraph 4 of the presentation by the Minister, which says, and I read, "You may note that Uganda Red Cross is one of the recognized active clubs within our schools that inculcate a culture of volunteerism among our youth who, among other activities, learn first aid techniques, self-help, and emergency response at school level." Dear Minister, does Red Cross Society have a relationship with the clubs like, say, the Girl Guides Brigade, the Boys Brigade, or the Scouts within the school setting? And if there's any relationship, then may we request you to include maybe, can we include them also in the new bill or in the new law that is coming before Parliament, so that we can also sponsor them, so that we can have some amount of money that is voted for the Boy Scouts, the Girl Guides, or Boys Brigade, so that they work hand in hand, they work together with the Red Cross Society members in order to help the people within the school setting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's go to the next person. Honorable members, there are certain questions we will ask them, but we are going to reserve them to be responded to by Uganda Red Cross Society. For example, the issue of whether they are being audited or not, how they are being getting their resources, and also relationship with other agencies. We are going to direct all these questions to them. And I want also to inform this meeting, in our first meeting, we gave them all these questions. Therefore, Secretariat supply those copies of the responses. They seem to be coming back the issues we raised at that time. Yes,
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Honorable Minister, for your presentation. I have been a member of the Red Cross since my school days, and I saw an oath in that respect. So that clarifies the issue of who is a member and who is a worker, because I know they are workers of the Red Cross and they are members. So when you mention 3,000, I think members will probably many more than 3,000. I must confess I haven't quite scrutinized the bill very well, but I think Red Cross should remain as it is, rather than be under a ministry or an agency. I don't know why they are complaining. But I wanted to bring out one issue. When I was a member, the biggest issue was collection of blood, and I read it somewhere in your presentation, Minister.
Blood donation.
Blood donation should be one of the key areas where Red Cross should, because in any disaster you will need blood, and this has been not looked into seriously by this agency. Because if you collect blood, and I notice in the Ministry of Health, there's always lack of blood. Recently I had the Mbarara Referral Hospital said they have just enough for I don't know how many days. So the issue of blood should be emphasized in this bill, and one of the core functions of the Red Cross Society. Thank you.
Thank you. What you have just said, they said they will perform the role of mobilization, but much work will be done by the Ministry of Health. We raised that question. They will continue to mobilize. and we can strengthen that function. But other work in relation to blood for our country will be more done by Ministry of Health. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I want to thank the Minister for the presentation. Honorable Chair, I remember when we had the Minister for Gender, she really tabled her concerns and showed the need why we must find housing for the Red Cross. And when in one of my suggestions, I said that the Minister should fight so hard to see to it that we have the Red Cross on the agenda, because this is a humanitarian agency handling issues that really concern the women, children, and people with disabilities. And these are the majority, by the way, who are really disgruntled. Honorable Minister, I think we are just looking at the housing of this agency. Where can it best benefit Ugandans? Because for me, when I look at local government...
And maybe what the Minister just said, let's leave it, and should be able to relate, supplement government activities as an auxiliary, organization. And it has been supported by some of our colleagues when they were presenting. So take it from there, and we narrow down so that we conclude this matter from there.
Okay.
So what is your take?
For me, my take was the previous one, that we house it under agenda.
So what I would really is supporting the proposal by Uganda Red Cross Society.
Yes.
Yes, that's fine. We shall narrow that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to appreciate the presentation of the Minister. The government minister writing so well about an organization like this. I don't know if Uganda Red Cross can produce a report much better than this.
Let's hope every agency can produce, but for now we have to sit and we know who. We know who.
Yes, Mr. Minister. In your report, 5.3, you talk about an MOU between the local governments of Uganda. Are you referring that this will be the local government at lower level? If it is so, how about at the central level? What is the ministry thinking about it? Because I see it is relevant, but how about at the ministry level? Mr. Minister, there has been challenges with Uganda Red Cross, more particularly with its staff. Now, this bill, Uganda Red Cross was established by an act of parliament, and that's why they have brought this bill again. How can government come in to ensure that this kind of thing doesn't happen? We cannot just praise what they are doing and then we don't open our eyes on the challenges in this management. Last but not least, I've seen about the direct support many organizations give to the population. For sure, what Red Cross is doing is very well. Everybody in the village may appreciate it. But, Mr. Minister, there are some service providers in the villages who do very good things like what the Red Cross is doing. For example, Save the Children. At the end of the day, they turn to be political. They turn to be political because they are doing much more than the government is doing itself, and the population is listening to them. What do you suggest to minimize this kind of thing so that we put it in the bill? Because if you leave it like this, they are rivaling government in some places. They seem to be rivaling government. Because if you look at what you have presented, it is even much better than what government can do. So I'm concerned about it. Having an experience of some service providers who do very good work, the community believe in them, they have really come, they are here, and then at the end they even direct political directions. So what is government ready to do about it? Thank you.
Thank you. As we proceed, I think, Secretary, let's take note. There are those organizations where government puts input, but at the end, they don't talk about what government is. I want to inform this meeting that when we were following issues of finance, we discovered that Uganda Red Cross Society in total had 25 billion for its operations, and 5 billion was voted or given by government. So I think it is important for us to discuss those who receive money from government and they don't talk about it. It's good to appreciate because government is giving money to Red Cross. They also came back and talked about the 11 billion. They said government appropriated it through Ministry of Health. That's still government of Uganda. So I think let's take that further and we shall know how to disseminate the information so that people get to know how government supports citizens. Next person. Are you okay? Okay. Honorable King.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I want to also add my voice to the members to thank the Minister of Local Government for coming out with a detailed information on Red Cross. But mine, I would think, when I look at Minister of Gender, it has so many sections, youth, whatever and whatever. For me, I would feel, since all this work is being done, either it is under health or local government, I would think all these are going back to the local governments. So for me, I would suggest that why don't we put Red Cross under Ministry of Local Government? Because all the activities they are doing is just in local government. So that whether health is coming or whatever, but all will again point at local government. Then
I think the question there is how can we ensure that Uganda Red Cross Society is supervised and monitored?
Then the second one is sometimes when we give freedom to some agencies, they may misuse their positions. Supposing, how can we guard against Red Cross being used by other organizations to even overthrow government? Thank you. Yes.
Honorable William raised that question. Let's go to Honorable Asa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I also wish to thank the Minister for this constructive presentation, although I came late, but I've been perusing through this document. Madam Chair, I wanted some guidance. What is the status quo now? Because I see Red Cross intervening in areas where there are disasters and they normally converge together with all other NGOs doing the same work. In my view, they are playing a great role when they all come there and solve the problem. For instance, Kasese, and even they've had these other issues in Morota and so on. I think let the Red Cross remain independent to do its own work rather than trying to get a house. For what? When you get a house, you'll be actually gagged. You can't do much work. In my view, let the status quo remain. Let them coordinate activities through local governments, as they are doing right now. This, in my view, let them be independent so that they can do more work for all of us. Secondly, where government funds are committed, there must be a bit of supervision. There must be a bit of audit so that these funds are properly directed, and it must be actually mentioned to Ugandans that government is playing a role. Otherwise, we thought Red Cross was independent, they are getting funds from abroad without the government. See, well here I have learned that the government is doing a lot. So in my view, we have to put it, let us agree to mention whatever government gives to all these NGOs so that we also remain in the picture. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, I think those are the issues raised by members. We can now respond to what we can, but as I can, but as I can, but as I can, but as I can.